Good morning, one and all, and to my respective panelists on the dais. A bit nervous because all of them are super, super seniors to me, and it is my first time as a panelist with the Public Relations Council of India. Well, I am Corina Enid Suarez. I've been a journalist for the last 14 years. I worked in 3 different realms. I started off my career as a news anchor, then went on to work with Deccan Chronicle for 9 years, and then now I head an organization called News Meter. So beside just being a news media organization, we are also in fact, we also have a vertical of fact checking, and we are the third partners of Meta in India. We also work with brands like Google. So thank you. If you happen to come across News Meter, that is the organization I head. I leave it to the other panelists now.
Thank you very much. Your smiles are very dangerous for yourselves, because if you're smiling, then chances are that I will go on speaking. So you look at me very seriously so that I'll cut down my introduction. I've been a journalist for 35 years now. And, oh, you're clapping. Thank you. Then I was one of the very first television reporters in Hyderabad, I can say that. Then I was one of the very first people who was writing for the internet. And I'm 56 years old. Thank you.
Hello everyone, very good morning to all of you. First of all, I feel very humbled in this room because I'm sitting with a panel which has 2 people with whom I've worked in my early days as reporter. I've worked in journalism for 4 years. That journey was beautiful. I learned a lot with Times of India, Hindustan Times and Deccan Chronicle, 3 of biggest dailies of India. But after that, I made a move to corporates. I've worked for companies like Genpact, Wells Fargo, Deloitte, and now I work with Novartis, which is a global pharmaceutical major based out of Hyderabad City. Although I sit here in Hyderabad, I do, all my work is 100% global, and I work for our headquarters. And I'm really happy to be here and sharing my thoughts with all of you. Thank you so much for inviting me and making me part of this event. It's a jog down the memory lane for me because some of the people who are sitting in the room, I spent a lifetime in my early years. And I came and first gave a tight hug to Michael sir. He didn't know who I was because it's been a long time. But I still know how I used to go as a reporter and fetch stories from the South Central Railway. So thank you all.
I'm Suresh Kochatal, and been in media for what now? Same as you. We started our careers together in Times of India. Of course, I came in from Times of India, Bangalore, a hotel management professional who worked with the Taj group of hotels before venturing into media in Times of India, Bangalore, got shifted to Hyderabad in 1989 or 90. It was when we started Economic Times in Hyderabad. Sushil has been my colleague. Chetan has been my colleague. Worked for 17 long years in Times before I hung up my boots there. Spent 10 years on the digital side at the Apollo Hospitals, building up there what is now called Apollo 24/7. Initially, it was called Apollo EDOC. And then, after that, literally got into television. Now I do a lot of my television shows. My political leanings are very obvious for those of you who know me. And I don't need to tell you that. I worked with a man who is now the Pradhan Mantri of India, so it was very tough working with him. But I did work with him, so that is a blessing. Thank you very much. Of course, I forgot to tell you that I know Turaf from his days at TMI in Karkhana, and now, of course, he's with Tempest.
Good morning, everybody. I am really very nervous after listening to all the gentlemen over here and the lady over here. Said they have so much to tell you about, but I am basically a simple salesman. I used to work with Hindustan Lever. I used to sell their soaps, detergents, etc. Then I decided to sell something for myself. So since 1987, I've been on my own, and I say that I'm gainfully unemployed. That's what I've been doing since 1987. I moved to Hyderabad in 87, and since then I've tried to learn Telugu, but I have not been able to master even one paragraph. The only thing which I understand is which for a person who's not a Telugu would be scandalous, which is rape randi. So that is what I am. I have created a team of people who work very hard for selling products and services of other companies. But at the heart, we are all salesmen. I'm sure all of you also want to sell something yourself, your ideas, and that is what I am. So I hope I'll be able to match up to the expectations that is there, that you would be having about my views on PR. Thank you.
Thank you, Joshna, for the wonderful introduction. When somebody introduces you, it's advertising. When you introduce yourself, it's PR. So you guys had the opportunity of practicing PR right away. My last visit to Hyderabad was to do a feature film. So like you, I have a problem. Although I was acting in the Telugu film, I didn't know the language. So the director, and the first scene was, there was a vacuumized camera on the SUV, and I had to be sitting, driving the car, delivering the dialogues in Telugu and with expressions. And the director was hiding in the last seat because the camera was there. And then driving expressions and a language that I don't know. It was a bit of a problem. So the director asked me from behind, he said, "Are you uncomfortable driving?" I said, "I'm not, because driving is not in Telugu." So I remember that, and after that, he let me speak my lines in Kannada, and we managed to. So this is one of the best cities that we have here, and it's grown rapidly. It's nice. Thank you, Ravinder, and thank you, PRCI Hyderabad, for inviting me over here. B.N. Kumar, the other panelist this afternoon, I envied him in the morning because he's got a panel discussion where there are 4 women and he's the only moderator. But nevertheless, you came late. I was thinking I won't even have a lady moderator. So anyway, we have 4 eminent personalities. After you heard them, we have 4 very eminent personalities here representing different cross sections, corporate communications, from a pharma, social activist. So we have, I'm sure we'll have a good session. To set the tone for my request is that the topic itself can be interpreted, misinterpreted, misconstrued, because for me, it has various connotations. When you say revitalizing PR and integrating traditional media in the age of digital dominance. So when you say revitalizing PR, does it mean that you're going to revitalize PR by integrating traditional and digital? Or is PR going to be revitalized in a digital age separately and traditional media separately? Whatever. I think as the discussion goes on, we'll have more light on this. Since we have many students, my few do's and don'ts. Let's keep it less jargons, less statistics, okay? So that they benefit out of the discussion. We'll set the tone by 2 minutes by each one of you on the topic, 2 to 3 minutes. We have about an hour, I think, yeah? And then we'll have a 15-minute session on question and answers, if that format is okay. You're with me on that? Okay. So let's start with my own introduction of what is digital. I failed because I still am trying to understand. I come from the traditional media. I've done my introduction. Corina, don't judge a man as a super senior by his hair, okay? I can be dying white.
I've done touch-up and I've gone.
Okay. So, but yes, I am a super senior only in the advertising field, and a dinosaur in many ways, because I represent the traditional media and digital has baffled me. All I know is, correct me if I'm wrong, that digital itself has been grossly misunderstood. There are myths, there are realities, and maybe as the panel progresses, the discussion progresses, we'll be able to clear many myths. For instance, when I talk to a client and he says, can you do some digital work? I don't want to lose the business I send. Then he only talks about search engine optimization. That's not digital. Although there is in lighter vein, they say, if there is a murder and if you have to hide a piece of evidence, put it on the second page of Google. Nobody will find it. So you have to be there on the first page of Google. If that is SEO, is that all is digital about? So we will know as we go about. And like I said, there one more do's and don'ts is, let's not dwell too much into personal beliefs, okay? Let's go into a general kind of a thing. Okay. We'll avoid God, we'll avoid politicians, we'll avoid politics, and keep it as interesting as we can. Put a lot of humor, and please disagree most of the times. Let's agree to disagree, play the devil's advocate so that it'll be more interesting if we can have the audience wants to know, that kind of scenario, okay? So let's start with Turab.
First of all, I was very worried that I would be the last person speaking and then everybody would have spoken and I would have nothing to speak. So despite the fact that he said that we should keep away God, I think I want to thank God that he allowed me to speak first so that I can get away with all the things which I want to say, and then these guys can fend for themselves. Okay. So first of all, as far as PR is concerned, we are saying revitalizing PR in the digital age. Personally, like how he mentioned that when somebody introduces you, it is advertising, and when you are talking about yourself, it's PR. So both of them, I think they are part of the same coin. The others, each of them are one side of the coin. And personally, I feel that many companies do not consider PR as a long-term thing. Many people get up when there is an issue and they say, okay, now we must do some PR to rectify this issue. I would, in case PR has to be revitalized, and especially the young people who are here, if you are working for a company, the first thing would be to consider PR as a long-term campaign for the company. After all, PR and advertising are nothing but paid. It's an economic activity to convey your story. So if you consider it to be a long-term investment, then it has to be considered as a long-term campaign for the company based on certain objectives and keeping in mind who your target segment is. Many times when there is a panic, some accidents happen or some negative report appears in the press, then everybody wakes up and says, okay, now let's do some PR. That doesn't work. So PR has to be considered as a long-term investment by the company, keeping in mind what are the objectives. Also, I feel that if PR is based on the brand identity of the company, for example, every company, every brand has a personality. And if you are wanting to do PR, it has to be in sync with the personality of the company or the brand. Because you can tell a lie, you can tell the untruth, or you can tell a story only once. Thereafter, your real self will come out. For example, if I am there and I say I'm a guy who cracks a lot of jokes and I don't know how to crack a joke, first time you'll believe, second time you will not believe. So if PR has to be done, it has to be done the way the company is, the way the brand is, the personality of the company has to appear in the PR activities that the company takes. And in today's world, I was discussing with one of the panelists over here that what is the difference between earlier times and now. Today, there are lots of mediums that are available. And as far as we are concerned, in my company, Tempest, we consider digital to be another medium. It is not something which is absolutely new and something is happening. It's the same story which is being told through different mediums, and digital is one of the mediums. So if you want to have PR to be active, to be effective, it has to be across different mediums. And today I think people have to realize that your target segment is moving from one medium to another. In the morning, before your newspaper arrives, you might be on a cell phone, reading the newspaper. Your newspaper arrives, you might just glance through it. If you are traveling, you are again on your cell phone. If you are looking around, you are seeing the hoardings, you are seeing the boards, etc. So the mediums are available and people are moving from medium to medium for the same, to receive the same story. So it's very critical that PR has to be able to jump between different mediums and convey the story, because your audience is looking at different mediums at different times of day. And finally, I think PR should not be something which is left unchecked. Finally, it is something which either the brand or the company is paying for, and it has to be evaluated at the end of the day. This evaluation can be done either by the PR agency themselves or the customer-facing people in the company. If you have salesmen who are there dealing with customers, you have to ask them, what has been the impact of this particular activity of ours on your sales? Finally, whether we like it or not, every single company, every single institution is trying to sell you something. So if it is not having an impact on the sales, maybe if initially it may have an impact on the brand image of the company. Company which have done something wrong might be looked at in a lighter vein. But finally, it does impact the survival of the company, which comes from the amount of business that you do. So it's very critical that just like advertising, just like today in digital where everything can be measured, the impact of PR has to be measured, and PR has to become a profit center rather than just a cost center. Instead of saying that, okay, I'll spend so much money on PR, companies will ask, if I have spent, let's say, 1 crore on PR, what is the return on investment that I have been able to get because of this activity? I could have put that money in something else and done something different. If PR has to compete for the money that the company has, and every company has a limited amount of money, it has to prove that it is a activity which is delivering profits to the company. Just like, for example, many years back, HR, which was just a function, is now considered as a profit center. That how soon you're able to recruit people, what's the quality of people that you have been able to get, what is the return that the company has been able to get because of better manpower. Similarly, PR has to do it. And finally, before you tell me to stop, yeah, okay. So last and finally, I feel that I would just like to say one simple thing, that everybody says you have to innovate. My simple formula is that if you do not innovate, you will evaporate. So just like everybody else, PR is at a crossroad. It has to innovate. It has to come up with new ideas of how to convey the same story to your target segment most effectively at the most economical cost with the highest amount of recall. Thank you very much.
Hello. So you got worried about a mic that doesn't function also. The power of the mic. Okay, I'm not going in any particular order. In fact, I wanted to call Corina first as a lady and build my own PR. So you come now.
Good afternoon, one and all. Again, I'm Corina Suarez. While we speak, there is an earthquake in Taiwan. So if I was a PR working in an infra company, I would quickly go to my bosses and ask them for a quote and then give it to a journalist. That's how I would work as a PR. Now, when a journalist, I will speak from a journalistic point of view because, I'm not from the public relations. So whenever a journalist looks at a press note, they will judge whether to take or not to take the press note by reading the first 2 paragraphs. They are not bothered about the quote. The first 2 paragraphs, what you write, if it includes the 5 Ws and the 1 H, the what, why, where, how, the journalism standard, that's when a journalist will decide whether the press note should be taken or no. A lot of times, public relations officers fail to get to a journalist or the metro desk of a newspaper or an organization. One, because the subject that they approach the journalist, so it doesn't matter at the moment. Second thing is they fail to build a personal rapport with the journalists. For example, in any media organization, you have your metro desk, you have your bureau chief, and then you have the rest of the organizations. So from what I see is a lot of young PRs today, pardon me for saying this, you know how they approach, they're like, hey, press note. That's certainly not the way you have to approach a media house or a journalist, irrespective to, you know, who they are. So one thing is they have to build that personal rapport with journalists or the metro editors, because you win, we win. You sell your press note, we take your press note. Point number one. Second thing, what I observed with a couple of the PR agencies here is you all are still stuck with a lot of age-old practices. Press note only during budget session, and that too flooding. The moment we see the headline, we will decide whether not to take the press note. These are facts. I'm sorry, I shouldn't be, be so brutal about it, but the way you all write, the way you all present, and another important thing is you all actually do not want to innovate. Today, a high number of people are on social media. Facebook, marks the top, followed by Instagram, and then you have your Telegram. Telegram is not much in India, but then you have your Twitter. I see that I see that a lot of PR agencies do not really use social media to sell their, subject or whoever company they're working for. Hence, they have to rely on influencers. Now, influencers know the game. They know how it sells, like a reel or a short or a YouTube short or something like that. So that is how one PR agencies should literally start learning the game of social media, know where the digital presence, who are their target audience, and whom to approach, and in what format to approach, whether it should be in a print or a video or an audio or such like that. So I think I'm done with my 3 minutes before I'm asked to go. Thank you so much. We will be talking, even while the seminar is on. Thank you.
First of all, I would like to bust a few myths that exist today, and from a very industry point of view, and this is my point of view. I think PR needs to be redefined now, and the way I redefine PR now is positioning rationally. That's PR to me. It used to be public relations. Relationships is a major part of it. And positioning takes time. It's not a paracetamol or a Dolo 650 that you can, just gobble up. So position stories and position them rationally, wearing the audience hat and the channel hat in mind. Another thing is these days, what I feel personally, having dabbled across, I've worked on the desk, I've worked as a reporter, and now I've been in corporate communications for a long time. Trust me, I find it very strange when people come to me, okay, we have to learn new skills, we have to adapt. Yes, we have to. Technology is playing a big role. AI is big. You have you can get your content rewritten, influenced by things like GPT and all the large language models. To the students here, go big on AI. These are free tools, dabble in them. Don't learn writing from AI. Writing should be inherent to you, but at least these are technologies which you should be learning. But what has remained consistent through my personal journey that I've seen is, a story is, at the end of the day, is still a good story. Okay, so if you're not flirting with the soul of a story, and you know what would tickle the imagination of a journalist, if you know what story that you can write, that works. That works across channels. The format may change. Traditional media, obviously long form writing, and there is a specific audience. Digital, short form writing. But anything that touches the heart still touches the heart. Anything which is, you have to get the timing right. And if you get the timing right, if it's right time, it touches the heart, it will still help you. So I think for a moment, don't think much about these trends and what's going on. I think as long as you generate good stories, I think it will eventually find its space through this maze of channels that we are talking about. The second point that I want to make today is that today a lot of content is user generated. Okay, so there are a lot of influencers, people who will talk about your content. You have to be very smart in a way that you're positioning your content. Leave a few very, very deliberate spaces open so that people can converse on your content. Sometimes in our bid to look more knowledgeable, we put everything into what we are writing, barely leaving any space for conversations. So I think these days, the pen is also in the hands of the audience. So leave the space open for conversation. At least digital enables that. So I think if you're conscious about, so just to summarize, if you're conscious about the soul of a channel, what it is meant for, don't just copy paste content from one to the other. Second, inherently, if you're a good storyteller, practice the art of storytelling. The 5 Ws that our co-panelists talked about, they're still relevant for me. At my heart, I can tell you I've done so many global roles till now. And Sushil sir, I want to tell you that at my heart, I'm still a storyteller. I'm still the same writer. I've never left that. I still write every day. I still practice the art. And my stories do touch hearts in corporates to my audience, which I want to influence. So keep it pure. Don't get influenced by a lot of things. It's an art. To all the students here, this is a craft which will take 10,000 minimum hours of practice to master anything. So this needs a lot of practice. Don't get distracted by your cell phone. Know how it works, know how the channels work, but don't get distracted by it. But once you are a great storyteller, once you get the soul of the story right, don't worry about much things about the clutter around. You will hit your audience. Thank you so much.
Well, first you have to define the subject for me. When you talk about traditional media, I want some kind of understanding on what you mean by traditional media, so that I can go forward.
Absolutely, this is what I wanted. Okay, would one of the panelists like to answer that? What can we define traditional media? The guy, not gray hairs who do advertising are not traditional media. So can you have a definition? I'd like to define it like this. Advertising media can be...
This is not part of my 2 to 3 minutes. They are talking. I am not talking.
No, I'm going to give you that extra. I'll give you the extra time. You'll get 1 minute extra, okay? So you asked a question, so I'm going to take a minute. It's going to be your time, actually, because you asked the question. Now, it's like this. Advertising before the digital age is traditional media. Advertising after the digital age is not traditional media.
You're making life even more complicated with your answer.
That was the idea.
Well, then Corina did understand you properly. She did not misunderstand you as a villain. She only knows her facts. And if she understood you as a villain, she's got her facts right. When I was doing my journalism in 1989-90 from Osmania University Arts College, we were told that traditional media is art, songs, folk literature, folk songs, all that is traditional media. Now, after 3 decades, you're calling newspapers traditional media. So it looks like we've come a full circle, but the traditional media or the folk media is what is still being used today to convey certain messages across the country. I've been a folk artist myself, I still am. కావాలంటే ఒక 2 లైన్లు పాట పాడమంటే పాడతా. పాడాలనా? అరే థ్యాంక్ యూ. We used to, my brothers and I used to give performances some 30 years ago. It's called a Burrakatha folk art form. If you heard. Tandana, tandane, tandana. You say tandana, tandane, tandana. Tandana, tandane, tandana. Kya baat hai? Tandana, tandane, tandana. Tandana hoi tane tandana. Tandana hoi tane tandana. Tarki ka jambari tha. That ending was good, isn't it? No, this is traditional media. What we understood as. Ante inka vartalenu. Banjai Noel. So this is our idea of traditional media. But as I said, we've come a full circle. Two points I would like to stress on. As I mentioned during my introduction, I've been in the field of journalism for 35 years, and a large part of my life and my professional life has been shaped by sincere public relations and professional public relations personnel from different organizations. From this platform, I would like to acknowledge the very crucial role that Michael himself played in my life as a professional. Can we give him a clap, please? But how is life without a PR professional in your life? That we have to give some consideration. Sir, you asked us not to bring in politicians, but I'll take the liberty to bring them in without causing any disruption to the proceedings here. This was a time when US President Bill Clinton was coming to Hyderabad, and they had kept the visit under wraps. There was a general understanding that Clinton was coming to India, that he would also come to Hyderabad. But was he really coming to Hyderabad or not? Nobody was willing to tell us. Then I decided to ask. Nobody was willing to tell. But I knew there was some kind of work going on in the ground. And here at this juncture, you could not talk to a PR person anywhere. Neither the Information and Public Relations Department had official confirmation, nor did other agencies have confirmation or even permission to talk about it. I played a trick on myself. I went to the Begumpet airport on the first floor. It's the first floor, isn't it, where you have the weather office? First floor or second floor. I went to the weather office. I wasn't quite interested in the weather, but I checked the weather. Because on the second floor, when you come out of the door, the office, you can see the tarmac. All right. So after speaking with the official there, I came out and I just stood there. And I saw all the aircraft landing. And within the aircraft were more aircraft and helicopters. So that paraphernalia that precedes the arrival of a president was all there for me to see. I saw everything. I made a mental note of everything. Then I went to an official there because I didn't want to be caught under the Official Secrets Act later. They'll put me in prison. So I went to that US official standing there who was counting all the vehicles that were coming in, all the entire system. I said, Sir, my question to him was straight. Is the President of the United States, Bill Clinton, coming to Hyderabad? It would sound like too stupid a question to ask when you've seen all the arrangements that are being made. And this person perhaps was a PR person because he chose not to answer. So if we are assuming that every PR person would like to speak, there's more that a PR person would not like to tell you than what he actually wants you to tell you. So I said, is the President of the United States, Bill Clinton, coming to Hyderabad? He stood like this. There was neither a smile nor anger. He did not battle his eyelids. Sir, can you confirm to me if the President is coming? No emotion. So I went to the office, I wrote an article, and I said this was the response of the official, because that's my job. I have to get the other side. Sir, if you're interested, I'll talk about Kareena Kapoor.
No, Bill Clinton itself is sexy enough.
No, life without PR people. So at one point of time, I was chasing Kareena Kapoor.
You too.
You too, nahi. I was the first person to chase Kareena Kapoor. Actually, I was chasing her sister, Karishma Kapoor, but I ended up chasing the younger sister, Kareena Kapoor. This was sometime in the late 80s, must be 89, 90 or during that time. I was to do an interview with Karishma Kapoor, and there was no PR person, but I needed to speak to her. Incidentally, I could speak to the mother, Babita, but Karishma I was not able to talk to. And what do I do? How do I get her? I'm telling you, life without PR people is very difficult. At least if there is a PR person, you can request and he can try. And he need not try but still tell you that he tried but he couldn't get. Or whatever, but at least you would get a response. Then I knew that this lady was leaving town the next morning. I got to know through some sources that they were staying at a certain place. I was not snooping. It was a very well-known thing that all these actors and actresses would stay at Ramanaidu guest house at Film Nagar. So I knew somebody there, and then they confirmed to me that they were staying there. Now, how do I get Karishma? I called up. One girl answered the phone, a kid. I said, is Karishma there? No, they're sleeping, she said. What is your name? My name is Kareena. Okay, then I would have spoken to Kareena at least 10 times until she woke up her sister, and then we got to meet at the airport to do an interview with Karishma. The reason why I'm telling you this is, as I mentioned, life is very difficult without PR people around when you have to deal with individuals directly. And when you rely on PR people, sometimes you do not carry what they say, but the kind of information that they would like to give you, it is something that you can store and make use of it later when the time comes. So thank you for inviting me here. I'm so glad that you heard me with so much of attention, and thank you for your claps.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm less of Aishwarya Rai. In fact, I remember Priyanka Chopra, rather, Sushil would remember that we had Femina for the first time outside Mumbai in Hyderabad. That was the old High-Tex where the High-Tex is located. And my boss, Pradeep Guha, gave me a T-shirt and said, go and give this to her. And her photograph was printed on it. We had a party the previous night, so not counting the 2 minutes. So that's how I went to Taj Banjara and stood outside till she came down at 3:30 for a flight to Mumbai. And I gave her the T-shirt. Anyway, long story short, I know the moderator said that don't get politics into it, but for a guy like me, those in the audience who know me, well, I am. I am day in and day out into it. So, but I will not get into much of it, actually. But one thing I would like to say, knowing a lot of veterans sitting out here, Ajay ji, and a lot of professionals out. Ravindra ji, he's here. Where is Mr. Joshua? I can't see. Oh, he's here. All are like 20, 25 years ago. So in 1988, 89, when I started my career with Times of India, I was a sales guy. I used to sell in the morning and come back in the evening, and I would find a gentleman standing there and telling me, can you sub 2 stories? Sub means sub-edit. That is to edit a big story into a smaller one, removing all the grammatical. And his name was Monu Nalapat. Now, of course, edits Sunday Guardian and other newspapers. I learned, so I used to sell in the morning, write in the evening. That was my forte. But I realized one thing. Mr. Pradeep Guha, my boss, who then was general manager, later went on to become the president. He sadly passed away a few years ago. A genius in the marketing and sales industry. He used to say one thing. There's a thing called a sphere of influence. Karina spoke about the earthquake in Taiwan. How many of you got impacted by it? Hardly anybody who known it, isn't it? Remember the earthquake in Latur? It happened at about 2 in the morning. None of the newspapers could catch it. The television caught it those days. Today, if a disaster happens, who is the first person who will tell you that news? Somebody with a mobile phone. That's it. So I keep telling today's generation when I address them that, look, the person with the mobile phone today is the most influential person. He would have built up the reputation of his company for 30 years, or NTPC would have been built up over decades. All it takes is a few seconds to destroy that entire reputation. Gone. Yesterday, there was a very interesting case in the Supreme Court, Zee Television versus Bloomberg. I don't know how many of you followed that story. Zee felt that they were defamed by an article in Bloomberg and asked for it to be taken down. The trial court agreed. The High Court agreed. The Supreme Court said, no, you cannot take it down. It may be fake, it may be libelous, but it cannot be taken down. Imagine, as a PR person, your boss calls you and tells you your job is on the line, get that article removed. And you say, I cannot get it removed. Because it's not the good old world. It is no longer the press notes that work. It is how you actually deal with your reputation in the market. Traditional media, when I worked in the newspaper, was a different thing. Today's generation doesn't read newspapers. I will take an example of my daughter who, before her marriage, naturally used to stay with us, and my wife used to tell her long stories. So her actual name is Arunima, but we call her Ammu at home. That's how most of the Malayalis call their daughters. So she said, she usually start, Ammu, you know what happened today? She'll say, Mommy, tell me the ending first. Then I will decide whether to listen to it or not. That is today's generation. The Instagram generation. You have 30 seconds to tell your story, and that's it, period. They don't have time for 5 minutes, half an hour. They don't watch Arnab Goswami's debates, no. Tell them straight on their face and be done with it. That is a big challenge. Turav will tell you that it's easy to make a 3-hour movie than a 30-second commercial. Very tough. So when you talk of public relations, I think the entire world has changed. I keep seeing Agarwal Saab's Facebook updates every day, rather WhatsApp updates every day. Philip keeps sending me interesting tidbits of news, mostly politics, to me. But that's not it. I think the greatest communicator, without bringing in names, would be the Prime Minister himself. He has not addressed a single press conference in the last 9 years or 10 years right now. But he has his own way of communicating. Why I took his name was very simple. There are ways you can communicate with people without even going to the press. You have your Chai Pe Charcha, you had then, the Man Ki Baat, and all other stuff. Now he is directly calling up the candidates, getting more publicity than you would have got in any other magazine. Today, everybody does it. I think the greatest communicators, if you ask me, are politicians. Because every 5 years, they need to go with a report card and get elected again. Rest of us have a 30-year career or 35-year career, and if you're in the government service, even if you work or you don't work, you'll still get paid. At least the private sector will get sacked. But that is what it is. They know, I think they can smell. I was with Annamalai last week in Chennai. He gave me 5 minutes. He said, Suresh, you have 5 minutes. Come, let's speak. And he spent 1.5 hours with me. Halfway through the conversation, he asked a union minister sitting there in the same room to leave. Imagine his guts. And union minister was sitting in the room. He said, can you just go out, step out? I want to speak to Suresh something. It was a confidential discussion. I can't reveal what we spoke. His way of communicating. And I've seen this with everybody. I've seen with Vajpayee ji, George Fernandez, and those who have kids here. You should watch Martin Luther King, John F. Kennedy, Bill Clinton. I stood at the end of Begumpet runway at Tadband and watched that Air Force One take off and land. Okay? That is what it is. The power of communication. Forget the PR aspect to it. If you can communicate through any media today, and especially we call this so-called digital electronic media. Television is gone, newspaper is dead. Sorry, Sushil. He himself goes on television a lot of these days, actually. How many of you in this audience sitting on the right side read newspapers? Not the oldies, one on the right. That's it. None. Maybe one or two hands. That's it. That's the challenge. How do you communicate with that audience? And if you talk to my daughter, she'll tell you, Daddy, everything is in shots. And she did a journalism from Manipal, by the way, and she never reads a newspaper. That's it. So my 2 minutes or my 3 minutes ends here, but I'll come back for more. Because when I talk not what Sushil talks or what Corina talks or what even Turab talks or Chetan talks. It'll be slightly more spicier. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Why didn't you tell me that earlier? Okay, we'll do a quick question answer. Disagree among yourselves. Let's start with Corina. Thankfully, your surname is not Kapoor. Okay. Do you think when you say integrating PR into traditional and digital age, how important is the role of creativity here? Because to me, I find when it comes to digital, I may be wrong, the strategy gets more precedence over creativity. So what do you think of this?
So that brings me to a question. When a company appoints a PR team, so who do they hire? Do they just hire an officer who understands the media, or is it a team where you have somebody who can handle the social media and who has a creative mindset, like who understands the digital realm? So that's my question. So how do the companies recruit? So how is your unit structured?
I think, Turab, you can answer that as a digital agency.
Yeah, I think it's a mixture of everything that you're talking about in terms of somebody who understands the business part of it and the gravity of any particular incident which happens. So the business angle is very critical, and then somebody has to convert that incident or that objective into acceptable story. So you definitely have creative people, and today I think the earlier time we used to have a differentiation between the creative writer and a person who's servicing, who's on the business side. But today both those roles have merged. The person who can understand business also has to be able to write and also at times even design and get into it fast, because it is many a times in today's world, it is like what you said about the earthquake. It is moment marketing. It is not just a story which happened 1 hour back. It is today, it happened at this moment. You should be able to do it fast. So it's the structure of the team is totally what I would say is a mixture of all these people. And one single person has to do multiple things as efficiently as possible. May not be able to do very, very efficiently, but today 85-90% creativity is fine, because the life of that story is also very short.
I second whatever you're saying. So when organizations, want to build a PR team, it is very essential to have one person, could be some youngster who understands how the digital realm works, who understands where the target audience is, which platform, what content, how, because I'll just help you all understand. 30 seconds reel. In a 30 seconds reel, the first 3 seconds are your hook. So how you hook your audience. If your audience is interested in you, it will stay beyond 3 seconds. And if it's not, it just takes 3 seconds to kind of flip. So organizations or PR teams, how you can reconstruct is have somebody who understands the social spectrum, the social media spectrum, so that you can not just sell your press note, or, sorry, I'm using the term sell because it's end of the day, it's business. Okay, so you can not just sell the press note to the media organization, but you have a larger audience on the social media platforms. So I think I have.
Okay, You hold the mic, you can share it. I'll stand here and use this. You have anything to add, Chetan?
I think in my world, from where I see it, strategy adds predictability. So you have steps that you can take, segmentation, you have channels. So strategy definitely is important. However, creativity is the magic. I mean, that is where you actually hit the mark and make a content go viral, reach more audiences. So one without the other is not important, but making sure that there is a balanced view in the room is very important. What sometimes I see is that strategy can eat creativity for breakfast because strategy speaks a lot in the room.
Okay, having answered that question, now you said strategy and creativity, I'm glad to hear that. Sushil, in your viewpoint,
Sir, make the question simple without complicated
I
words.
promise you, I like asking questions. I never like answering them, so I'm going to enjoy this moment. This question is very simple. Are creative guys going to be jobless soon? With you mentioned AI, somebody else mentioned AI. Are we all going to be jobless and creativity takes a backseat?
I don't know.
Good answer. Chetan would want to answer.
I can answer and probably Suresh can add here. See, I write a lot on social. And I can tell all the students here, I experiment with all large language models. They suck big time when it comes to writing. They will give a very plain, vanilla version of a copy. The ultimate idea, you can just think about it, think about AI as an assistant. It will help you shape a few things, edit a few things, but it's just a base of the cake. The icing or the idea, the core story idea, that is always the human being. So treat AI as an assistant. If you become lazy and start trusting AI for everything, it's doomsday.
But for a PR story, it can churn out an interesting story in half an hour.
See, interesting, yes. Whether it is fact-based, answer is no.
No,
Sometimes,
your facts, you're prompting it first. So your prompt is facts.
Yeah. Interesting, yes. See, I can tell you from my experience and very practical lived experience, I write a lot on LinkedIn. I experimented with large language models and fed fed ChatGPT 4.0 my own style, said, this is how I write, this is my next story, write it like the way I write. But the response I got was nothing in comparison to the way I write. Because my audience are used to my style of writing, which is barely 10, 15 words. So, no, I'd still like to prefer, you can take it as an assistant.
Sushil, you want to add now?
Yeah, now I would like to add, since I've got a grasp of what is being spoken. I'll go back to my 30 years ago days. This is only to help us understand that we have AI now, but whatever technologies are coming, ultimately, as Chetan said, it is the human being who dictates to AI and AI responds in a way that you want it to respond. Sir, before computers, you had typewriters. You know. I passed my lower grade and higher grade typewriting, okay? So I type very fast. So one of my colleagues in the office, he was doing a report on a typewriter. Then we shifted to computers. They were new to us. They were new in this part of the globe. My boss came. He was standing behind this person. I'll name this person also because it sounds very good. His name is Simham. Okay, Simham is tiger, huh? Okay. Oh, sorry, lion. So Simham would roar. Nobody could disturb him. And he was friends with chief ministers also. They grew up together. That's another matter. So Simham, from using a typewriter, he started using a computer, which was new to us. And Simham was very fast on the typewriter. And if any of you have been to classes where they teach you how to type, lower grade, higher grade. You're not even supposed to look at the typewriter. You only have to look at what you need to type, and then this comes here automatically. That's how accuracy is got. So Simham was accurate. He went about it fast, and I was watching him. My boss came and watched him for 5 minutes on the computer. Then he said, Simham, what are you typing? And Simham, in his own style, said, I'm doing this report. All right? Because he used to write something like 1,500 words for every single press note. All right. Then my boss said, but Simham, what are you typing? I finished that story already. But Simham, there has been no power for the last 5 minutes and you were going on typing. Then Simham looked at the monitor and said, oh, so this functions like this, is it? So as Chetan, my friend, was saying, AI is here to stay. It all depends on how best you make use of technology, adapting to it and making full use of it.
Simham, fortunately, if you had been used to this typing and then this and then page you shift with your old, the monitor would have gone out of the window if you had done that. Okay, you have something to add.
Just a piece of advice for people who write, content creators. Do not copy from ChatGPT, because every 6 months the Google algorithm changes. And if Google finds out that this content is copied from ChatGPT, no matter what SEO you do, it doesn't scroll up. So a personal advice, it's okay if you want to give it for college essay and your whatever seminar and all you guys want to do, but if you are into the business of PR, do not copy from any of these bots. Google will not, unless it is a Google product, it will not allow your story to scroll up.
Yeah, in fact, on that note, I must add, if any of you are looking at an university abroad, you have to present a statement of purpose. And that statement of purpose has to come from your heart. Why you are pursuing a particular course, a particular subject. AI can't do that for you. You have to speak, and they find out if you have used ChatGPT also. Okay, let's come to Suresh again. I'm going to throw the audience the questions now. Start with Suresh. Spicy, yes.
The question to me, yeah, I think the most happiest people with ChatGPT and AI would be the guys who are planning to do the PhDs, because it used to take 3.5, 4 years. Now I think they can do it in 2 years or even 1 year also. So, but I look at it, the children love AI and GPT, especially ChatGPT, because they can get the homework done. I think they are the biggest recipients of this technology. But let us realize one thing, as Sushil was saying, ASDF, GF, semicolon, LKJ was our way of learning typewriting. Today's media, no matter what you write, I have got 68,000 followers on Facebook, good numbers on Twitter. But the point is, unless you write an interesting story. So I wrote this story about how a gas cylinder leaked in my house day before yesterday when I tried changing over. Unfortunately, my wife is not here, so I really am not conversant, but I know how to change the regulator. Called up Indian Oil about 9 in the night, and within 15 minutes, that technician was at my doorstep to repair it. I wrote the story. We all deride the public sector undertaking, saying they are good for nothing. Look at where Air India was, or look at how the petrol bunks function, various things. But I think the way you write from the heart, as Karina was saying, unless you write, and even Chetan was saying this, unless you write from the heart, and you need to get that story from the heart. I'll tell you a couple of examples of how things can go wrong. All of us remember the Sterlite copper factory at Thoothukudi. It is one of the biggest PR disasters in history. Here is the plant that was obviously polluting. Copper is polluting, there's no doubt about it. There's no plant in anywhere in the world that claims that I don't pollute when you're making copper. But a company like Vedanta or Sterlite was not able to communicate that, especially when they were driven up against a organized movement that were opposing that factory in Thoothukudi. Long story short, you know what happened? There was police firing, there was people who died. Just few months later, or maybe after that, what happened was there was another plant called Kudamkulam nuclear plant, which is pretty close that way. That plant went through like a dream, because there was the Chief Minister, Jayalalitha, who put a foot down and said nothing doing. There was the Prime Minister called Manmohan Singh, who for a change said, yes, we need this. I think Going apart from on a PR note, you know how to handle a crisis. And I spoke about this at NTPC a number of times. What happens if there is a boiler burst? The first guy reaction in the good old days was to shut the plant from the media guys, put them outside the thing. And the guy, executive director or the NTPC managing director will prepare a press note which will come by 6 in the evening. The accident happened at 6 in the morning. And by the time the news dies a natural death. Today, an employee inside the factory will take a video, send it out, and the damage is done in 5 minutes. As PR professionals, one has to realize this fact. You don't have time on your side anymore. By the time you prepare a press note, your reputation is gone to dogs. You have to react, right or wrong, like a fighter pilot has 10 seconds or 5 seconds to react to decide whether to eject or not to eject. I think that is where I keep telling people, forget the good old PR notes, forget everything. The best way is pick up the phone and speak to the guy at the other end. I think that, Sushil will tell you, works more than anything else.
Fine. Let's have another quick 10 to 12 minutes of open discussion. The floor is open. Only you had a question.
I'm referring to your opening remarks where you had mentioned, you catch the attention in 30 seconds. Either you are there or you are not. If you catch their attention, maybe if you're fortunate, the story goes viral and your brand does well. But as practitioners of traditional media, the big question I'm sure for most of us would be, the brands address the younger generation. And the younger generation consume what is called as digital media. I don't even know how to spell it, digital. Yeah? People like us, who are so much in the traditional media, we are veterans in traditional media. I mean, we would like to say that ourselves. What would be the relevance? It's a very big question. Even if, assuming the traditional media continues to exist with the same vigor, what would be the sheer relevance in the face of things that are happening? Yesterday, sorry, I'm taking half a second. I met two youngsters who were Jains, our Anmol Jain, Prakash Jain's son, who makes a lot of these show reels. So he was taking me through how these reels are made. And in 2 seconds you have to catch the attention. And if it's noticed, the brand does well, so many hits, So life is almost coming to this, thanks to what digital media is all about. And that's the media these people consume on the left side of the hall. So what is the relevance for traditional media practitioners? What is the future for traditional media?
I think Charles Darwin said it, Sushil. The ones who don't change, ones who don't adapt, will die. That's a rough translation of what it was. The survival of the fittest, that comes from that theory. Yes, sir. Correct. Keep pace with the change. We all grew up together. I mean, Sushil and me started our careers. He started before in print industry. But today, if you ask me, when you sit down to write something, you know that if I don't write in the first 30 minutes of what an incident had happened, somebody else would have written before me, and I'm gone. That is what it is. Satya is sitting here from the advertising industry, FCB, Ulka and all that. He'll tell you that what advertising was those days is not advertising now. TMI to Tempest. World has changed. Today, the attention span is gone, sir. We've got one foot in the grave, honestly, all of us sitting on this side of the room. The one sitting on the other side of the room are the future. They have a disposable income. We can't even imagine the salary. My daughter draws a salary which is like I didn't even have when I retired. Technically retired, rather. So that is how the generation are. They don't have a brand loyalty. They buy something today. We used to stick with the Colgate all our life. They will switch from Sensodyne to something else and then come back to something else. From a Mountain Dew to a new orange drink. But we are still stuck with something very traditional, Ganegaras. This is what it is. If you don't change, sir, that is what it is. I think we are gone. We need to change. I know it's very difficult for us, those of us who spent donkey's years in this field, to suddenly change. Newsletters, for example, sorry, Joshua sir, not to aim at you, but I think many of us do that. Newsletter, who reads it? The MD reads it, he is happy because he sees it. If photograph is there, make it even bigger, he'll be more happy. That's it. I know a guy who told me that my MD's wife has written a book, so I want some publicity. Kya baat hai yaar? That is what it is. I think as PR guys, at one time PR guys even used to be in charge of the guest houses. I remember this very well. But I think it has changed. Let us admit that fact. We need to speak to that generation. If you start giving a long speech, half of them would be sleeping by the end of it.
Some of
We
them
have
are
to catch their attention.
Geeta Saujanya, working as assistant professor for Kasturba Gandhi Degree College. So my question to the panel is, we are living in the age of information, where the information flooded to each one of us, doesn't matter whether it is true or false. So how to quickly validate the information, whether it is true or not mentally?
Good question.
Good question. Now, coming back to what you said, that flush of information. Now, when you look at information, in what forms they are? They could be in image, they could be in videos, they could be in text. Now, we'll keep the text for the later. Now, when you look at an image, just giving you a little bit of understanding how we work. If you look at an image, suppose something is not wrong, you will tell yourself. For example, a lot of us come across AI-generated images. Have most of us seen it? Yes. All of us have seen it. So what is the first few things you see when you spot an AI-generated image? Unrealistic? Blur? Too good to be true. Anyone else? Do you all follow the royal family? Recently, Kate Middleton put out a picture with her and her three children. So what went wrong in the picture? A lot of big news outlets called out the picture saying that it is AI generated. Oh, it's a manipulated image because one or two fingers of George were missing on this right-hand side. So coming back to what I'm trying to explain is, when you see an image, you yourself will be able to tell you whether it is true, false, maybe, partly true, partly false, whatever. Then, what you should do is, if you're really interested in debunking it, send it to us. Point number one. Point number two is, there are three things. One is the deep fakes, which the whole world is talking about. That's a small part of the synthetic media. And then first you have deep fakes, then you have synthetic media, and then you have your AI, artificial intelligence. So your second part is your audio or your video, right? So there's something called audio cloning, video cloning, face swapping. So when you look at something and you know there is something wrong, that is your first instinct. Second instinct is, if you're interested, I'll sit with you. There are a couple of online tools which you and me can easily find out whether this is doctored image or a video. And the text is a little different and difficult because you have to wait for the officer or the authority to kind of reply, and that's when PR comes into your picture. I hope I've answered your question.
Yeah, thank you, Corina. Any other questions?
My question is to Mr. Sushil Rao. Mr. Suresh Kochitil was telling print media is totally dead. But there have been instances where great majority of people are going through newspapers. So do you contradict his version, sir? Times of India is advertising that print media, it has got 70% attention and all that. So how do you explain this feature?
I'll narrate a story to you so that you can come to your own conclusion. And I don't want the moderator to look at me like that.
When you say story, I get worried.
I'll tell you a ghost story. Interested? This happened 3 decades ago. There was a story doing the rounds in Hyderabad saying that in a particular house, there was a ghost. Everyone knew about it, everyone talked about it, no one saw it. Then I decided to see it. But which house, I didn't know, except that there was an indication that it was somewhere in Banjara Hills. Yes, you're right, exactly. Were you the one? Correct. So it was in that lane behind the mosque. And 30 years ago, sir, you didn't know how to enter those places where this place was, and you were going there to search for a ghost. I finally identified the house number. Then I saw it was a huge building. But how do I check if there is a ghost in this or not? No, I didn't want to enter and check. All right. So I went back. There used to be the telephone directory. On that house number, there was a telephone number. You remember telephone directories, everyone?
Yeah.
So voluminous one, every person would have a telephone and that number listed there. So physically I went there, I saw this house, and I knew that people were talking about this house as the one where this ghost was living, staying, or that popular ghost. I went to the office, then called up that number because I wanted to speak to the ghost. And the ghost answered the phone. But the ghost said, I'm not a ghost. The ghost said, see, somebody is spreading these rumors about us. I am not a ghost. I live here. And then I understood the whole scenario. Somebody was spreading this information only to see that this house doesn't get sold to anybody or the price falls, something like that. But the entire world was talking about it, and no one wanted to check if there was a ghost or not. But I checked it, that it was no ghost, and I printed it in the newspaper that there was no ghost, and that printed information was taken to be the truth. Today, the printed word has more credibility than any other media. Thank you.
Narayan, you got the answer.
No, I didn't mean
I've
that
got a
print
question,
was
sir.
dying. Just
I've
in
got
a
a question,
post-COVID world, the print is reduced. That's what I meant.
No, what Sushil is saying is, print media will never become a ghost. It will not die. Okay. Yeah, your question.
I've got a question, sir. This is addressed to Suresh Kuchatil. Basically, now we are coming back to the specifics of the subject, revitalizing PR, integrating traditional media in the age of digital dominance. Since you have been, privy to both the ends, you have been in the tradition as well as, you have been quite adept at the digital dominance. Do you really think, people, are tuned, particularly the young generation, are tuned to accept the traditional options of media, right from the time of the Burakatha days, all the way until, the live meetings addressed by political leaders, when, like how Corona Soros had said, AI can create images, unrealistic meetings can happen, Karunanidhi can also address an audience even being late. Do you think, the audience, the present gen is going to accept this integration? Please, Suresh Bhatt.
No, I think they already answered my question when I asked them how many of them read a newspaper. I'll tell you, the post-COVID world, the circulation has dropped by more than 50% because people felt if you did not read a newspaper during COVID, to chalta hai yaar, kya farak padta, I can live without a newspaper. That is how it is, because Pradeep Guha, as I was mentioning before, of Bennett Coleman and company, said that if an earthquake happens at 2 in the morning, newspapers cannot cover it. Finished. The news is lost. Next day morning, 24 hours later, it comes. I remember during the war, Saddam Hussein's war in Iraq, when I was in Times of India, Bangalore, we used to bring out special supplements at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Because the audience wanted to know how many places got bombed, how many things. They didn't want to listen to it next day morning or read next day morning. That generation sitting there doesn't have the patience. Honestly, they don't have the patience. Seriously. Talk to them about anything. Ask them how they converse with their parents. I can tell you straight away. My daughter converse. Ammu, how are you? How is it? How was the day? That's it. They don't have the time to talk. She took a flight to Delhi and landed, and her mummy is worried. What happened to her? You didn't call? What is there to call? I'm okay. That is it. That is what this generation is all about. If you want to tell them something interesting, Corina was talking about the hook. Have that hook. If you can catch their attention and hold that attention, that is what great speakers of today are all about. Kumar Vishwas, I don't know how many of you know him, he used to be with the Aam Aadmi Party before. That guy, he can hold your attention just like that. But there are many such people who can hold your attention. The problem in today's newspapers, Sushil, pardon my indulgence here, but the problem with today's newspapers, they have not reinvented. I had an editor called Jyotirmay Sharma. Both of us had the same editor. Jyotirmay used to come and tell me when I used to sub the stories, 300 words. Koi nahi padhta usse zyada. That's it. No continuation from page 1 to page 6. Nobody looks at page 6 anymore. Page 1 is where they look at. Even in your computer, Chetan will tell you that in the monitor on a website, nobody scrolls down. What is there on the home page is what they look at. Research proves 80% of people don't even scroll down. So to get that attention of the audience, I'm telling you, sir, there is no magic.
I have a comment regarding this survival of the print media. Now, we all know Amazon, Flipkart, and most of our mobile companies are primarily sold on digital media. The question that I want to ask is, why is it that whenever Amazon or Flipkart has a sale, the first thing that they do is put it on print media? Okay. What it means basically is that there is still a large segment of society which reads newspapers, which gets its news from the newspaper, or at least the ads from the newspaper, because ads don't have to worry about the earthquake or Saddam Hussein dying. Ads are ads, and that's what we are finally, even if it's PR, PR is one form of advertising. So as long as there is a segment of society which, and especially if you look at the growth of newspapers, vernacular newspapers are growing today at a much faster pace, and that is happening primarily in the rural areas. So there is a segment of society which still depends, maybe 30 years, 20 years from now, when this particular age group dies, then you may not have newspaper, but for the next 10 to 15 years, definitely newspapers are going to be there. And also one important point is that every medium has its own characteristics. Outdoor has some characteristics, digital has certain characteristics, and print has certain characteristics. These have to be utilized in unison. You can't have you ever seen a brand which is only on one particular medium? Most of the brands are there in multiple mediums. So you as a PR person or a marketing person have to decide which medium will reach your target segment most efficiently.
Thanks. Now, 3 questions. Questions have to be very brief, answers will be very brief. Yeah.
Yeah.
Putting importance on PR people and tell them they are like a wife and husband, because without media, PR is of no use. PR is having a role for media to run. So I have a question for Sushi sir, that especially me and my son is sitting with the digital media. Okay, so I have this question, in case if something is there, as a personal question, as a follower of digital media, as you know, I am into this. So is the prominent media, print media like yours, like personally we have invested a lot in the print books for my son, so that he shift his interest from, though it is as we are talking about 3 seconds, 30 seconds, we cannot do that. But we realize because now is everyone talking about family time and all that, so the very prominent media like yours, are you doing something like how we are talking about, there was a time yoga was outdated thing, now it has become a fashion. Now I'm sure everyone will move back to the print media because everyone cannot go with the specs and all that. If we ourselves having a number 2, 3 and 10, I don't know what will happen to the next generation teacher. Please Asma. So are something is being done or something is planned?
Actually, yes, Mitali.
Now we can hear.
Yeah. Firstly, I'm so happy meeting you here. And secondly, everything comes back in a circle. For some reason, all of us are talking about a certain generation which we think has gone past what exists. But that generation will go through a circle and it'll come back. So nothing gets outdated, everything gets reinvented. And I think that process is happening.
Great. One more question.
Yeah.
Okay, 2 more. Okay, last. And make the question brief, please. Very brief.
Good morning, everyone. I really appreciate the way Sushil sir has started his conversation because folk art form is something that comes in traditional media and print and broadcasting comes under old media. What is your comment on the act of the PR with regards to the death of Poonam Pandey's news through the digital media? Could anyone? And during the time of the days of cervical cancer, that was a PR stunt.
I'll keep it short. I think it's ridiculous. One, because look at the families whose loved ones are suffering from cervical cancer. Because when someone dies of a certain sickness, the entire family is impacted. But on the other end, I think the PR has won it because the entire world were talking, at least India was talking about it. So I'll keep it very brief.
Good, thank you.
Can I just, as Anand Ranganathan would say, give me 30 seconds, lady there. Remember, we had a program called Chitrahar. All the old guys would know it. Today you have Spotify. Simple. That's it.
Okay, one.
Escape from negativity from the social media. The second one is there's a lot of conflict of interest where you have a brand ambassadors advertising to drinks, have soft drinks, and other side having interviews, do not drink soft drinks with the doctors talking. So there's a lot of conflicts of interest. If you are a PR of that soft drink company, what would you say to the big heroines who are actually talking about health and promoting the soft drinks? That's my question.
You will make a fantastic PR guy because you clubbed two questions into one when I said last question. Okay, who is going to answer that?
Okay, so here's a question of ethics. What do you stand for? And most of the corporate companies who are there, who are promoting this type of things, possibly they've left their ethics back home, or they've never heard of this thing. So it is purely a question of ethics, and I would, if I was there, I wouldn't touch that particular product. I think there was Panpara, no, forget the brand name, but we had a badminton player who refused to advertise for, who refused to advertise for soft drinks. So I think it's a question of ethics, and many times money in today's world beats ethics anytime.
I would like to just add here that sometimes when you take this decision to keep a brand pure and not just choose something which doesn't resonate with you, on the long term, I've always seen that is financially more beneficial. Because see, there is a pie, and there is a particular pie for money allocated to a particular pie. So let's say aerated drinks have a particular budget. On the other hand, health stuff like health monitoring, health measurement, health supplements, there is a certain pie attached to it. So if a brand or an individual, for that matter, keeps himself or herself or that entity keeps that purity intact over a long period of time, you will attract that pie. So it's not that you will lose out. On the long term, you will always win.
No, pull out his mic. So with that, I thank all the panelists for the wonderful morning that we have had. And if any of you want to interact with the panelists, you can do it over lunch. And if some of you want to know if Bill Clinton came alone or with Monica to Begumpet, ask Sushil. Thank you very much.